Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another edition of Color Me Poetry. Got a great show for you here today. We had the lovely Miss Darla Davenport Powell, and she's the creator of the Dyia Doll. Tell us a little bit about the Dyia Doll.
Before I go into the story behind the story of the Dyia Doll, I'd like to share this poem titled Save the Children. Who will save the children? Marvin, what's going on? Runaway child running wild, AIDS. Better go back home, drugs. Where you belong. Belong? We point fingers while they point guns at us and each other. Is it a crime to want someone to care? Break down teen pregnancy. My baby will love me. Break down peer pressure. My friend will accept me. Break down street gangs. My buddies will understand me. And we spend millions on studies and millions of hours and meetings to solve problems and to ask questions we already have answers to. Marvin, what's going on? Only a fool looks into a mirror for someone else's reflection. Break down school system. A wise farmer always tends his own crop. Break down family. Without a vision, the people perish. Break down church. Each one teach one. Break down community. Break down, break down, break down. Where's the love? Does anybody care? Babies making babies, high dropout rate, illiteracy, crowded jails. How many more signs do we need to see the handwriting on the wall? Live and in living color, and it ain't funny. And we drive around with bumper stickers on our cars which say, if you can read this, then thank your teacher. Have you hugged your kid today? Hugs, not drugs. Better go back home, where we belong. Back to basics. Runaway child running wild. Runaway child running wild. Runaway child running wild. Who will save the children? Who?
Most beautiful, Miss Darla.
That speaks to the Here Comes Dyia book and the Here Comes Dyia cassette, and now the Dyia Doll. We wrote that, I guess, about a year ago. And I'd like to just go back, I guess, about 8, 9 years ago when we came up with the idea of looking at the world through a child's eye. And my husband and I, we had our daughter Naya, and I was just looking at her discovering her world. And I said, somebody needs to write a story about this child.
Capture that.
Exactly. And we did just that. Naya provided the inspiration for the Here Comes Dyia book and cassette. And at that time, I wanted to put out a cassette, a book, and a doll. But of course, we had no money, just lots of faith. So the tape came first, then the book, and now the Dyia Doll, who speaks in English, Spanish, and Swahili.
Oh, wow, that's most beautiful. How's it that you, I mean, what process did you go through? I'm sure there's a lot to it.
Well, initially, in reference to the book, we sent off to the major publishing houses, submitted the manuscript.
The book came first.
Exactly. Had a young man by the name of Maurice Jenkins,
of course,
who is a muralist from Union Temple Baptist Church, to do the illustrations. And Maurice would submit an illustration a week, and we would sit down and approve them. And after he completed the illustrations, I knew we had a top first-class book that we would have no problems publishing. Wrong. We sent out the manuscripts, and we received rejection notices saying, we're sorry, but this book is not suitable for our list. So we kept submitting, we kept submitting, we kept submitting, and we kept receiving the rejection slips. So one day I was reading in Black Enterprise magazine about a gentleman who had done pretty much the same thing. He put out a book and tape. So I called him up in New York, sight unseen, arranged for a meeting, went up to New York and spoke with him in reference to publishing the Dyia book and tape. And he said, oh, fine. You know, he was in printing, that kind of thing, for over 20 years, and he had musicians to do the music. So we struck up a partnership. I gave him my manuscript, and that's mistake number one. Never give anybody your only manuscript. I gave him the manuscript, and he said, well, Darla, we will need some monies from you, you know, in reference to getting started. So I was selected as artist in residence for the Institute for the Preservation and Study of African American Writing, and they had given me a grant. So I took the grant money and I gave it to the gentleman in New York to get the book started. He promised me deadlines, that kind of thing, in reference to the book being completed. It never was. It never was. We really came on the ground floor of learning what the publishing business was all about through this meeting in New York.
Where'd you go from there?
From there, it took us a year to get the manuscript back.
A year?
A whole year. And after getting it back, it's like, I'm going to do this book myself. You know, our children need positive materials that speak to their strengths and not their weaknesses. And so we got the manuscript. I sent the illustrations to a separation house, a graphics house in New Jersey. No money. Had just gotten ripped from my job as Director of Public Affairs for the Coalition for the Homeless. And my mother, and it's really ironic, Danny, how life is. My mother had worked for a doll factory for over 18 years.
Wow.
And she was retiring. She sent me the $2,000, okay, of her retirement money that she was going to get a wash and dryer. She sent me that money to get the separations done. And from there, we used monies from gigs, because, you know, I'm a professional drummer.
That's true.
The money came. So I guess I sit here to say that where there's a will, God will make a way. And now we have the Naya book and cassette, and we can speak to the doll in the same kind of vein as far as struggling and having the faith and determination to see a project through.
But I wanted to go